Hey everyone, it's Deja from Crochet Ever After, and today I'm doing a messy bun tutorial. I had so many people asking me for this tutorial after they saw my ponytail beanie, so here it is. Here is our hole that we're going to be making in our beanie. This is a really easy and fast beanie to make. I literally made this in about an hour and a half, and that was stopping to go over the steps of everything in the video. So it's really simple. I'm using bulky weight yarn so it works up even faster, and then I'm using an 8mm USL hook to make those stitches nice and big and fast to work. And we'll be doing the tall chain, so if you've never done that before, you'll learn that technique, which will give you kind of a seamless invisible seam. So this is my seam side. You can't really tell where my seam is except for now that I pointed to it, but if you were just wearing it, you wouldn't be able to tell. So go grab your yarn, your hook, and then download the pattern from that link, and we will get started. Okay, we're going to start off our beanie with a slip knot, so just leave a long enough tail so that you can weave it in easily when you're done. And I always take my yarn and twist it down and then reach through the loop that's attached to my yarn and pull that through to make my slip knot. Then put your hook on and pull that tight, same loop. I have my tail over here. And then we're going to chain 12 to make the open hole that your messy bun is going to go through. So we're going to yarn over back to front, so it's always kind of, if you're looking at your hook this way, you're going in a clockwise motion, not counterclockwise. So clockwise around, turn your hook down, pull it through, do that 11 more times. Doesn't really matter if it's loose or tight. The first round that we're gonna do is gonna cover all of these chains up, so you do them however you want to do them. Let's see how many I have. And if you aren't familiar with counting your chains, just look at them from the front and then look at the V's that they create. So if you look, they kind of create little V's going into each other, and you can count them that way, or just count the side of the loop. That one might be a little easier for beginners. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Don't count the loop on your hook. That's your working loop. So 2 more, 11 and 12. Then what I'm going to do is join this in the round so I can start making my beanie. I'm just going to put my hook anywhere on this first chain. So I'm just going to kind of reach through the center and push through. Doesn't matter if you catch 1 loop, 2 loops, whatever it may be. Yarn over, so it's just kind of a lay over the top and pull through. Then again, I point down to get through loops easy and pull that through. And now I have my hoop for my messy bun. So we have our hole. And this should be sufficient for most people's. This is going to get pulled even a little bit bigger once we do our stitches, but this should be sufficient enough for most people's heads. So we will move on to our next round, which is technically round 1. So we're going to start with a tall chain because I like to kind of mask the seam when I'm working with double crochets. So I do a tall chain, which you'll understand more once I do it and show it to you. So tall chain, I'm going to pull it up the size of a double crochet. So I'm going to pull it up just a little bit taller than a normal chain. I don't want to get too huge because then it's going to stick out a lot. If anything, I want it a little bit shorter than a double crochet. And then I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to lock it in. So it's just kind of a chain through the tall chain. And I'm not counting this as a stitch. All it's doing is getting me up to the height of a normal double crochet, so that I can actually do a double crochet for my very first stitch instead of using the chain 3 method, which usually looks kind of like a skinnier double crochet and you can spot it usually. With this method, you're going to see that the seam when we get going is not going to be as visible. So anyways, we're going to go ahead and do 24 double crochets into this circle. So just go for it. Just yarn over, insert all the way through. Don't catch any loops. Pull up, pull through the first 2, point down, pull through the next 2. So since we're not counting this tall chain, we're doing an actual 24 double crochets. But I'm going to keep doing my double crochets till I get to 24, and then we will join and go on to our next round. Alright, got 24 double crochets on my ring. If you're new to crocheting and you're not sure how to count your stitches, double crochets are a lot easier to count because you can kind of pull them apart and see each one of them. But you can also still count your V's up top, so just kind of like your chain stitches, you can count those all the way around to make sure you have 24. Remember, don't count this loop on your hook. This would be your last stitch. And when we look, we can see our tall chain over here. It's kind of just sitting there, not doing much. We're not going to use it, so we're going to ignore it when we're joining, and that's going to help to mask our seam. So we're going to do a slip stitch in the top of our first double crochet, so it's nice and big. You can see our loop right on top, so we're going to go under both of those loops, lay over the yarn, pull that through, and then pull through the loop on your hook, and it kind of just falls into place. It doesn't stick out, it doesn't look like a chain 3, it just kind of looks like an extra loop in there that you don't really notice. So now for round 2, we're going to do another tall chain. The whole thing's going to be tall chains until we get to the brim, the brim, and then lock it in. And now, because we joined in that double crochet, and we're not counting this as a stitch, we're going to use this stitch for our first 2 stitches, which is going to be two double crochets in this first stitch, which is an increase. So we're going to yarn over, we're going to go right into that thing. You can see it's a nice big hole when I pull on it. That nice big hole right there, just going to do 1 double crochet and then another double crochet. And this is a very easy pattern, very easy to remember. We're going to do a double crochet in our next stitch. So again, we can turn sideways, look for our V if we're new. There's a nice big hole that we can see. We're going right through that and doing 1 double crochet. So our pattern is going to be 2 double crochets in our next stitch and then 1 double crochet in the stitch after. We do that a total of 12 times, so it's going to give us an extra 12 stitches on this round. So we'll have 36 stitches at the end of the round. So now I'm on my 1 double crochet. So we're going to keep going around. This is our 2 and then a 1, and just do that all the way to the end of the round, and then we will join and go for our next round. All right, I'm down to my last 2 stitches. Just wanted to show you this because I don't want anybody to get confused with this last kind of loop. That is what is attached to that tall chain. That's where that tall chain came out of. It's the slip stitch. We don't want to work into that loop, so make sure that you're counting your stitches so that you end up the right amount. It should be apparent when you're doing this round because you're doing 2 double crochets in 1 stitch and then 1 double crochet in the next stitch. So if you are working around and you come to your last stitch and you're on one of those 2 double crochets, then you know you probably missed something or that you're maybe trying to work into that one. So make sure you count those stitches as you go so that you have the right amount. So I finished this round and now I'm going to join again. I skip this tall chain and I'm working right into that chain, or I keep wanting to call it a chain 3, right into that double crochet. So you'll see the loop is very long and big. It's right to the top and to the right of the stitch. So it's not the one to the left, it's always up and off to the right. If you're left-handed, then it'll be off to the left, but that's the only difference. So insert your hook under both loops, pull through the next one. You can tighten it down a little if you want to for slip stitches. And then we're going to do our round 3. So again, tall chain, nice and easy. Doing 2 double crochets again in that first stitch because we're going to increase another 12 stitches to keep growing the crown to fit your head. Then we're going to space them out by 2 stitches. So we're going to do a double crochet in this stitch and a double crochet in the next stitch. So just 1 each in the next 2 stitches. I like this yarn. It's kind of a neat color changing. It's not like a super self-striping, but it's kind of neat looking. Then we're going to start that over. So we're just going to repeat that process again. We're going to do 2 double crochets in our next stitch, then 1 in each of the next 2 stitches. So you'll see that as brackets on the pattern that you can download in the link below, or it'll send you to where to download to it. And if you stop and you get up and you're not used to reading your stitches, look at how your stitches are made into the row below, the round below. So if I get up and I come back and I'm like, oh, what am I on? Am I on a 2 or a single? I just look at what I made. So I can see that I have 1 coming out of this stitch. I see that I have 1 coming out of this stitch. And then I can see that I have 1 and 2, like a little V coming out of this stitch. So I can see I did 2, 1, 1, and I know that I'm on my 2 again. So again, this is what we're doing all the way around. 2 double crochets and then 1 and 1. Easy peasy. I'll meet you at the end of the round so we can join and move on. So here's that last stitch of the round. We're going to double crochet in it and join with a slip stitch in the top of our first double crochet. And we are done with our crown. So that was it for the increases, just 3 rounds. So I love the bulky yarn. Now we're going to do the body of the beanie. So now it's going to come down and we're going to do just a double crochet in every double crochet we come to. So do our tall chain, pull that through, again work into that very first double crochet. And you can see we're looking at our, if you're looking at your beanie, the seam is not super easy to see. It is right now because I have this, but once we're done, when you look at it, you'll see that the seam, if you're used to making beanies or anything in the round with double crochet, you'll see that it's a lot less noticeable than the chain 3. So we're just going into every stitch we come to and putting a double crochet. So we're going to have 48 double crochets around where we will join at the end. So just keep working and we'll meet up at the end of the round. All right, we are at the last stitch of the round. My yarn, this is how it came. It's got the knot in it. Because this is a 1-ply, I don't think it's really going to show up, this little knot that they have in the yarn, so I'm just going to work it into it so you can see it kind of, you can't really tell. But if it was like a really big knot or if it was applied yarn, it would be more visible. And if I didn't want it visible, what I would do is, so say this is the knot right here, I would cut the knot out and then I would join the yarn just like I was joining a new color of yarn or a new ball of yarn. So that's just a tip. If you get a knot, in your yarn and it's messing up your project, cut it out and just create a new join, and then you'll just have to weave it in. It's a pain, but sometimes you get that in your yarn. Then we go ahead and join again the top of our DC. I always want to say chain 3, and then I have the complete round. So you'll notice I don't really have a beanie looking shape. It's not really cupping up. After that first round, after your increases, it doesn't cup up much. By the next round or 2, it'll get really into that beanie shape. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to do 2 rounds on our own, same exact thing. We're going to tall chain, we're going to double crochet in each stitch around. So do that for 2 more rounds. So you're going to have 48 stitches in each of those rounds. And then we'll come meet up at the end of those to move on to the next instruction. Alright, last stitch of round 6. These rounds are very easy to count because they are nice and large. So we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm joining again in my double crochet. You can see that my seam is pretty well hidden. It's kind of blending in with the rest of the beanie. Now we have that beanie shape, so you can see it cupping down. And we're going to keep on going. I'll bring it back a little bit so you can see the whole thing. So we have that nice beanie shape. And then we're going to keep on going because it's still not kind of big enough to start the brim. So we're going to do another 2 rounds of the exact same stuff that we've been doing. So nice and easy. Just tall chain, lock it in, double crochet in each stitch. And then we'll come back at the end of round 8, which is in 2 more rounds, and join up and go on to the next instructions. Alright, I'm ready to join. I just finished round 8. So now we really got a very good beanie shape going on. Let's see. So I want to start my brim now. If you can try it on as you go, and if you want to do maybe 1 more round of double crochet before you start your brim, that's fine. I want kind of a thick, chunky brim. I might even make it double long so I can fold it up, see how I feel, but that's an option for you. A piece of pink yarn in here. So a couple options, you can just keep double crocheting. So if you like the double crochet and you like the finished edge of it, you can keep double crocheting for as tall as you want your beanie. Just try it on as you go, and once you hit the round where it's covering your ears or however you like to wear your beanie, then you can just fasten off. I'm going to do a single crochet border because it's going to give me the straight edge or the straight seam also. I can't do half double crochet because my seam will start to travel. So I'm going to do a single crochet brim that you'll see, so you can do that for as long as you want as well, so you can make it extra long or just enough to cover what you want to cover, however you want to do it, but we'll start with that. So round 9, no tall chains this time. This time we're going to chain 1, but the difference is instead of pulling high, we're going to tighten it down. So kind of the opposite. And what that's going to do is allow us to make a straight seam or continue our straight seam with our single crochet. So if you've never seen my straight seam in the round in single crochet video, that is one of the steps to do, and it just keeps the seam from traveling. So if I have a big chain 1, it pushes my single crochets over and I get a slant in the opposite direction, and it's just part of what we need to do to keep the seam straight. So tighten it down as much as you can. And then we're going to use that same stitch that we've been using for our join. We're going to do our first single crochet in that stitch. And that's to keep our seam straight as well. So we have our very first stitch that's lining up with the rest of our first stitches. And we're single crocheting all the way around, just like we did with our double crochets. So we insert our hook in, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through both loops. So easy peasy. Once again, we'll go around and we'll meet up at the end so you can see how to join for this straight seam and how to do to begin the next round of the straight seam. And my last stitch, this round is especially important to count your stitches if you're not used to doing this kind of straight seam, because it can kind of get off a little. You might think because there's such a gap from this stitch to this very first stitch that maybe you're supposed to work into one of these, but you want to just count. You can count the tops of your V's to make sure that you have 48 stitches. And then just like with the joining on the double crochet, we're going to join at the single crochet. So we're ignoring our mini chain 1 and we're inserting our hook under both loops of the single crochet, pulling it through. And one thing that we want to do to keep our seam straight, along with tightening down our chain 1, is tightening down our slip stitch. So we want to tighten it down as much as possible, so that way we're staying in line with that single crochet, because if I kept that slip stitch very big, it's going to kind of get in my way of working back into that very first single crochet that I did on the round below. So again, same exact thing as the previous round. We're going to chain 1, we're going to tighten it down, then we're going to do our single crochet in that same stitch. So you'll see I have a couple. That's the slip stitch, that's the chain 1, and then I'm going right back into that single crochet. That's going to keep that seam straight, keep it pretty much invisible, and allow us to have a good looking beanie no matter which way we put it on. So again, we're going to go around and then join. So I think we'll do 2 more rounds on our own. So this round and one round after it, and then we'll come back and move on to the next instructions. So go ahead and work these 2 rounds and we'll meet up in just a second. Alright, I'm on my last stitch of round. What round am I on? This is 9, 10, 11, 12? 11, yeah, because we did, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So round 11. And I tried on the beanie and I almost said I was going to stop right here. And I was just trying it on without any kind of ponytail. Then I put the messy bun through, and I don't know what kind of, maybe because of the poofiness, it kind of made the beanie shrink back a little, so it wasn't quite where I wanted it to be after I put the messy bun on. So I decided that I am going to do at least 2 more rows of single crochet for the brim. Now, I recommend trying this on as you go because everybody's head's kind of different, and the slouchy beanie effect won't really work for this. You kind of need a tight-fitting beanie for it to have the full messy bun effect on top. So make sure that you're trying this on as you go, and just, you know, once you're happy with how long it is, if you're making it for someone else, then I would recommend going double however many single crochets you do. So I'm going to end up doing probably 5 rows of single crochets. Double that, and then that way they can flip it up. They can find the correct, you know, length to get it nice and tight on their head with the bun sticking out the top, and then they can flip the rest up as like a little fashion statement, and you don't have to worry about it fitting correctly. So I'm going to do another 2 rounds and check it out. I don't think I'm going to do the flip up on this one, but that's just kind of an option for you guys so that you can personalize it. So this is a really simple pattern to just kind of change around however you like, so you can make a bunch of different ones. And we'll come back in 2 more rounds and I'll show you how to finish it off and be done. Last stitch of the beanie. So I'm just joining as I normally do. I'm going to fasten off and weave in my end. And this is a nice, the 1-ply is always nice to weave in because it gets hidden really easily, especially in bulky yarn. Easy to weave. So I went with just a total of 5 single crochet for the brim, 5 rounds. So that gave me a total of 8 and 5, 13 rounds of beanie. And so if we take a look at it, this is my seam side, and it's not so visible, so I can wear this beanie. I don't have to worry about what's facing front and what's facing the back. I can just put it on and go. But remember, make it, oops, I lost my yarn. I lost my needle, or both. Make it how you like it. So if you want a larger brim, keep going with the single crochets. If you want to flip it, go with single crochets. If you don't want any single crochets, just double crochet. I like to do, even if I'm gonna do double crochet for the entire beanie, is like one last round of single crochet just to give it kind of a finished edge. If you just do double crochet, it kind of always looks a little unfinished to me. So that'll just give you a little nice edge to it. But once you get your ends woven in, you're ready for some messy buns. This one is really easy to weave in because you have all of this that you can go under. Back up a little bit here. 2 tails. Forget what I'm trying to say. And you can even do some more personalization, so you can switch colors at your brim and make it a totally different color, or switch colors in the middle of your double crochet and put a stripe in it. Lots of different stuff. You could even put a single crochet stripe, so you could stop like here or here and then put a stripe of single crochet and then go back to double crochet. Lots of different stuff. Once you get to the even rounds, I always call the rounds where you're doing the same amount of stitches every time even rounds, because it's an even, you know, the same number every time. So once you get to those even rounds, you can really change up the beanie to make it whatever you want, because you're not doing any increases or decreases. It's just 48, 48, 48, and you can really change the style of it to whatever you like. As long as you have that beginning hole, you're good to go. So that is our messy bun beanie. If you have any questions, leave them below, and thank you for watching.